Hey everyone, it's Matt. I'm behind this colorful video today introducing you to Beasts of Balance. It's an app-enabled tower stacking game. With the use of your iOS or Android tablet, your Apple TV, or your Amazon Fire TV, you'll interact on screen as you build a tower of beasts off screen and attempt to get the highest score possible. Gonna just quickly unbox things here and then gonna show you some basic gameplay mechanics before I take it over and play it with some friends. So here are the 6 beasts. You have an eagle, a warthog, a shark, a toucan, a bear, and an octopus. The middle here, this is called the plinth. Now the plinth itself is kind of the, it's the base in which you play the game, in which you stack your towers and add your artifacts and maintain the life of your beasts. So underneath that is a whole bunch of artifacts, and so these artifacts, they all have different purposes. So what I'm quickly going to do is I'm going to take all this out of the box and I'll show you the different artifacts and what purposes they have. The purpose that these artifacts serve in the game is kind of twofold. So number one, they help maintain the life of your beasts as you set them up. And then there are a couple different challenge tokens here as well. So for example, this is the haste artifact, and what you do is you place this on the game board and it actually speeds up the gameplay itself in the co-op mode. And this is twofold. So in the co-op mode, this is it adds some extra challenges to the game, and some extra twists and turns, like it may have you pull some objectives and do some objectives within the game while you're placing things on the tower. This resurrects any dead beasts in the co-op game. And so these here, once again, are just maintenance for your beasts in the co-op mode, and adds points and adds life to your beasts and to your score. These here are the cross tokens, and so what you can do is when you place a couple beasts on the board, you can use this to crossbreed them and create new beasts. And this here is the migrate artifact, and what this does is it will migrate one of your beasts. So if you have a beast on land, you have a beast on water, it will migrate them over onto a different area of the playing field and will turn them into a different beast. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you some basic gameplay mechanics here, and then, like I said, I'll take it over to a friend's house and we'll show you it in action. Great, so in order to play Beasts of Balance, you're going to have to download the app from the iOS store or Android. It's a free download once you've purchased the game. We're just going to open it up now. So from here, what you'll have to do is put batteries into the plinth. It requires 3 AA batteries, which are not included. And the first thing that it's going to do is it's going to try to locate the plinth. Now I've already turned the plinth on and had it search. It automatically syncs up if need be. So we're going to focus mostly on the gameplay mechanics of the co-op mode, because that's probably what you're going to be playing most of the time. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to need a beast. And so here's the warthog, for example. So as you can see, it's contoured many different ways. You can place it on the field, on the board, in any way you want. You can do it upside down, right side up, sideways, whatever really helps you, build your tower and get things started. So you need 2 beasts to start, and the way to start is the beasts, the artifacts, they all have near field communication, and what you do is you touch it up against the plinth here. Shows you that the warthog is now in the playing field. One thing that I couldn't figure out how to do was to actually undo an action. So, for example, once you've selected the warthog, there's really no way to take him out. So choose carefully. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put him upside down. You can place him anywhere on the playing field, and as long as it registers the weight, it's good to go. Okay, so as you can see, we've now registered the warthog. He's now joined the land area, because he's a land animal. We're going to need a second beast, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the octopus. So here's the octopus, and once again, touch him to the plinth. So he's now registered in the game. Okay, I'm going to put him upside down as well, to maybe just create a nice flat surface to place the next piece on. Okay, as you can see, the beasts have a registered score to them. So if the bigger the beast, the larger the score. And so what happens is if you do end up with a third beast, let's say that you're using the shark. So the shark, for example, is 6 points. And what would happen is at the end of every turn, the animal with the most points would actually take a point away from the animal that has the least points. Now that point just sort of, just sort of disappears into nothing unless you use that haste or one of the special artifacts. Now, what I actually want to do is I want to show you what happens when you cross two species together. So we're going to take this, and once again, before you place anything onto the playing field, you do have to make sure that you touch it to the plinth, because otherwise you get threatened with taking the piece off, or you're going to see that one come up again in a minute when I show you what happens when the board starts to fall apart. Touch that to the plinth. Okay, so we've now crossed over and we have a different beast. And this was actually a new beast for me. I hadn't done this one yet in the games that I played. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add to my board a little bit more and then come back and show you what happens when the board starts to fall apart. I wanted to show you a couple other different little gameplay mechanics here. So as you can see, my octopus and my warthog are now endangered because of that special beast that I created. And I've placed the toucan on the board as well. So what's going to happen is if you do run out of points, the two animals here, my warthog and my octopus, will go extinct. So in order to save them, you have these little pieces here, these little artifacts that you can place on the board as well. They come in a couple different elements. So we've got fire, which I'll explain in a second. We've got air. We've got water. And we've got land. Now, the artifacts do come in two different tiers in some cases. So the ones that I showed you were specifically specialized for that purpose. You do have hybrid ones as well. So for example, if you were to add this to the board, this is land and this is water. So that is the actual piece that I need. So I'm going to touch that to the plinth. And I'm going to add that to the board. The name Beasts of Balance comes in really for two different reasons. And as you can see, they're now restored a little bit and have some points added to them. Beast of Balance really comes up in two ways. So the object of the game, as my toucan's endangered, the object of the game is to score as many points as possible. So it's not necessarily to place as many objects on the board, it's to place as many objects as you can smartly enough to also score as many points. You get more points for the higher levels of beasts that you create, as well as maintaining what you have on the board. So right now, what I think I'm going to do is, while my toucan's endangered, I'm going to place this specific air token on the board. So it balances out in two ways. It's kind of a twofold name. Alright, so let's just say, for example, that you stack your tower pretty high, and you're going to see some pretty high towers, I bet, once I take this over to a friend's house. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do something really dumb here. I'm going to add this giant eagle to the board. Okay, I've really left myself not a lot of room to do anything. I've kind of stacked things not so smartly. And so I place this on the board, and now everything's going to fall apart. So you're given a moment to rebuild your world, which means that you need to take the pieces here, put them back up, and weigh them properly. Now, the interesting thing is you don't actually have to rebuild exactly the way it looks. You just have to rebuild it to stacking the pieces back on the board. So if you've made some mistakes along the way, you can actually clean it up. If you need to stack pieces differently, as long as you make it before time expires. So you have a few seconds to rebuild your world, and if you don't, then game over. I only scored 14 points that round, and my high score is 115 points. So you can imagine what sort of what sort of crazy stuff we did in that game. So I'm going to take this over to a friend's house right now, and then I'm going to show you the co-op game in action, and then I'm going to talk a little bit near the end of the video about the battle mode as well. You're probably going to be focusing a lot more on the co-op. The co-op game is kind of what drives this, but there is a battle mode as well, which itself is fun as well.
A fair bit of teamwork required as you begin the co-op game. I'd recommend having people seated on all sides of the table to input areas of the plinth that can be stacked upon. The plinth itself is on rubber feet, so you can't turn it or move it at any point. Try some experimental games too, like we're doing here, focusing more on beast creation. Okay, let's fast forward to our best game and see what happens when you tip your tower over in co-op mode. We've also applied the haste artifact here, which means our turns are timed. Normally there's no timer on turns unless you apply that artifact.
Look at this thing.
Run. Oh my gosh, we have
You got 10 seconds. You got 10 seconds to add the eagle.
Oh, go.
Oh no! You gotta rebuild the tower. Rebuild. Oh no! Game over.
As you stack and create, your bestiary fills with regular crossbreeding and then the elementals, which are the most rare breeds in the game. The latter are tough to get, and we weren't able to get more than a couple on the board at a time. The last thing I'm going to show you is battle mode. In this mode, 2 or 3 of you go against each other as your chosen element, and really, it's your job to cause the tower to fall on an opponent's turn, for which they then need to fix or take the loss. Let's join the end of one of those in progress, because the end game is a little bit different.
How it hasn't all fallen over from all that stuff.
That's so amazing, it hasn't fallen over yet. Okay, give that a try again. You got 28 seconds. You got a lot of points.
Oh gosh.
Why does Sea and Sky have to rebuild it?
What?
It said Sea and Sky rebuild it or land will win. Why do I have to help rebuild it?
I mean, I'm okay with that since I'm land.
Oh my gosh, we lost.
Giving me this like 8-9 year to rebuild with.
You got 10 seconds.
Just pile it.
Nothing.
Oh, land takes it.
What? Oh my god,
Why
really?
does it take it though, Luke? It's all land.
Because I'm land.
Always heed the message you're given while loading the game. The world ends when the tower collapses. And that's a look at the very unique Beasts of Balance, now available at Best Buy and online at bestbuy.ca. I'm Matt. Please subscribe to the channel for more board game reviews like this, and please check back to the blog regularly as we are reviewing more board games. We'll see you next time.